Like being from Tugigaraw, may contribution din ba yun sa...
Should be. Kasi dito naman ako lumaki. So, most likely, I mean, my education here, my exposure with people that I met on a day-to-day basis, and even everything happening here, it helped me where I am right now.
Welcome to the Homegrown Podcast, where we highlight inspiring stories from Tugigaraw's own professionals, artists, creators, and community leaders. Born and bred in Tugigaraw, we dive into real talks on career, growth, and the hustle of building something meaningful. Whether you're chasing your dream or still finding your path, the Homegrown Podcast is here to remind you greatness begins at home. In this episode of the Homegrown Podcast, we're honored to welcome Dr. Augustus Tus Narag. He is a Tugigaraw-born public servant, a scholar, an educator, and an internationally recognized policy expert. He currently serves as the Division Chief at the Department of Social Welfare and Development, DSWD, and has held major leadership roles in programs such as Kalahi Seeds and Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. Key efforts in reducing poverty and empowering communities across the Philippines.
Dr. Narag holds 2 master's degree and a doctorate in public administration, was a DSWD Outstanding Public Service Awardee, and graduated as Best Student at Seoul National University under a Global Fellowship.
From policy to poverty reduction to representing Cagayan in global conferences, Dr. Narag proves that excellence can be homegrown. Let's dive into his story, his values, and his vision for public service.
One more time for Dr. Narag.
Kamusta?
Yan, well.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be part of your podcast, and thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. Of course, you're one of our top priorities in
Welcome,
this podcast.
Kuya.
Siyempre, di ba?
And it's nice to hear. Thank
Lagi
you.
ka ba pa rin dito sa atin? Umuwi-uwi ka pa? Or
I always consider Tugigaraw as home. So as much as possible, it's very refreshing for me to come back home once a month.
Oh, consistent yan, Kuya.
Yeah, I think so.
So do you have purpose every time na umuwi ka or...
To be honest, it's just for me a breather from a lot of pressure from
I
work.
see.
Yeah.
So we get refreshed just staying home and just sleeping most of the time.
So, inuuyan mo rin ba ang pansit?
To be honest, I'm not if there's one thing about me being a Tugigaraw, pansit is not my thing. So it's not the thing I wanted to go home. But merong mga time na I crave for it and I enjoy the moment. But for me to do it often, I don't think so. That's not me. But please don't judge me for that.
So, let's proceed. So, the early life, the roots in the early life, kung sino si Kuya Tus in your own story. What's your story?
I don't have really memory of myself, especially mga, I don't know, siguro walang mga significant event happened with me magmula hanggang elementary. Siguro the usual. Pero yung growing up, I feel like I've been in leadership position since high school. And I think that's one thing people know about me a lot is, I'm always there helping people or leading a certain activity.
St. Louis ka,
Yes, sa St. Louis na yan. And I think that spilled over until I was in college. So, growing up was more of just leading people, but yung really having conversation with people or whatnot, I can't really remember those things. Yung parang, alam mo, very transactional na tao lang ako na parang, sige, pag merong task, may challenge, I'm up for it, I'll interact with the people. Then after the thing, it seems like I'm shutting off from, parang
so parang
na lang ako.
you come and go.
I think so. So kaya pag naalala ko mga high school years ko, parang, I only remember those things that I was doing. But when it comes to interacting with people, lalo na pag nagmi-meet kami ng mga high school friends, ang dami nilang mga kwento na alam nilang nandun ako, na minsan, kailan nangyari yan? Parang ganun, I don't know.
Education po, kuya. Dito lang ba? Like everything sa Tugigaraw? Elementary, high school?
Yes. But there was this time that I tried studying sa UP Los Baños. Then I went for an enrollment for second sem sana. But nung bumalik na ako, just for another vacation, nag-decide na ako na hindi na ako babalik. So,
This was, political science, public admin.
yes,
Opo.
I started with public ad muna. So, after I left UP Los Baños, dumiretso na ako sa St. Louis for public administration. Then, when I was in fourth year, I decided to do a lot of majors. And that's when the time I decided to extend for 1 year to pursue political science.
Oh.
What in you, why did you choose yung specific field of public administration?
Actually, hindi
and
siya
political
profound, hindi
science?
siya very mind-blowing na reason. At that time, that time wala akong view of future. I think that's one thing about me, and it's part of my story, is that when I was choosing about what I really wanted about my life, I really have no idea. Siguro that's the very reason na hindi ko na panindigan or hindi ko pinaglaban yung pag-stay ko sa Lupis Los Baños. And to answer your question, nung bumalik na ako, tanong ng parents ko, so ano din ang gusto mong take? Sabi ko, public ad. They didn't ask why. Pero as I know, nung ini-interview na ako for my transfer, babaw na rason ko. It was like I just wanted to be good in writing and in speaking in English. And I don't think it was something related to public ad. So that's my story why I chose public ad.
Saan ka na naidala ngayon, right? Wow.
I think so. I think it was providential at that time. It might not be profound, but it created a lot of opportunities for me.
you. So, any specific childhood memories na like maaalala mo talaga na brought you to public service?
Sabi ko nga sa'yo, wala talaga akong alam about elementary years. Pero when it comes to high school, I feel like I was already leading at that time. So, sa school talaga. Nandyan yung focus ko at that time eh. Parang, yung maraming mga challenges at that time, or hindi naman talaga the usual high school kind of thing. Pero, I can remember one critical event, lalo na yung senior high ko, na parang lagi nilang sinasabi ng mga tao na, yung intrams natin parang the usual lang, boring, and so forth. And kasi at saka wala masyado nagpe-perform. So at that time, I started planting the idea of what if wag yung per year level yung competition, but we divide the junior and the senior level. So yung first year, second year, i-break into groups natin, then a mixture of sections, then a senior, i-group together natin, and let them compete against themselves. So this time, mas maraming magpa-participate, as mas invested ng mga tao.
Looking back,
So, I'm happy. I think many people doesn't know that. I don't know that, but that's one of the legacy I left with St. Louis at that time. Na, and having this conversation would make me feel like that was the time na when every time there's a problem being presented to me, it seems like I am challenged with it, and I come with ideas that will make it happen. And I think going back to where I am right now, minsan nga tawag nila sa akin sa office, I'm the troubleshooter. So when there's a huge problem on a certain on the implementation, they would always be that I'll be the guy to do that task, to troubleshoot everything. So I think yun yung maalala ko na talagang nag-define at sa akin childhood memories ko, yung mga opportunities leading school activities na ayoko yung the usual. I listen to people. Then after I listen to people, I work with my team and do things with them.
So magkaugali tayo.
Of course.
Ang lupit, kuya. I think you're in the right department, DSWD talaga. Kuya, what's it like? What do you do ba? So, like sa office mo, what happens in your day? Ganun.
Right now, it's really fortunate for me to work with the biggest social protection program in the entire Philippines. It's the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. We do the conditional cash transfer. So what it's like to be working in the office, I work with, sabi ko nga sa inyo, troubleshooter ako. So you have to imagine, for the last 3 years, I've handled a lot of positions and a lot of people. So before I left for Manila, it was I left with being the lead for the Kalahi Seeds. It was the first time na na-implement yan dito sa Region 2 at that time. So no one knew the technology. So after that, I went to Kalahi Seeds National. At that time, it was the first time na my cash for work for persons with disability, which I think right now, BBM made it as a permanent program sa DSWD. Then eventually, ngayon sa 4Ps, nandyan yung hinandle kong grievance, yung mga reklamo, hinandle ko lahat yan. Then eventually, this year, they asked me to do the beneficiary data management. So lahat ng mga information ng beneficiaries natin, minamanage natin yan. Sinusigurado nating tama lahat ng mga to para tama yung mga grants na binibigay natin. So just imagine we're managing 4 millions. 4.4 households or 25 million individuals na nasa database namin na inaaral namin on a day-to-day basis na dapat tama siya. And on top of that, I'm the in-house monitoring and evaluation officer. So most of the time, we do policy issue, we raise policy issue, we propose solutions. I help in mapping out kung saan dapat saan tatahak ang program namin. So it's more of really policy development, policy enhancement, linking with the field offices, kung ano yung mga concerns nila at ina-address natin.
That's a lot. Kuya, I consider myself as a common man. Ang nakakagulat dito for me is, ganun pala kadami yung programs. Upon the ones you've mentioned, Kuya, alam mong familiar lang sa akin is yung 4Ps.
4Ps. Ako din, nung una.
Yun.
Marami program ang DSWD. Mas lalo pang rumarami under our new secretary because he has a vision of doing a lot of things. But you have to understand, ang DSWD, in essence, dapat lang kami, policy development, and we're guiding only local government units. But of course, we have to model certain kinds of programs para pwedeng gayahin ng local government units. So I told you kanina, ay other programs na inintroduce namin siya, nandiyan yung pag-abot, yan yung naging controversial, remember Ross? Yun yung sa mga street families. So yan, bagong program yan. Then, it's a new established program, yung walang gutom, and so forth.
What are the common na mga misconceptions, mga frequently asked questions about the programs that you handle?
For 4Ps, of course, lagi nila sinasabi, parang binibaby namin masyado ang mga mahihirap.
I was gonna ask you about that, Kuya, pero please educate us on this.
You have to understand, how do you cuddle poor when you're just giving a small amount? And we have to understand, ano ba talaga ang 4Ps? We're giving allowances to children for them to go to school. And I every time I have conversations with a lot of people, lagi kong tinatanong, I don't know if everyone could relate, ano ba yung lagi sinasabi ng mga magulang natin growing up? Wala kaming ibang pwedeng ipamana sa inyo kundi education. At once na educated kayo, you'll have all the possibilities in the world. And that's what we do in 4Ps. Ano ba ang challenges ng mga mahihirap? Education is free, di ba? At maraming mga schools sa mga bawat barangays. However, what hinders the poor to go to school? Kasi they're hungry coming to school. They don't have any allowances, and that's where we come in. We ask them to go to school, and after they are attending school, we give them their allowance. Kaya nga tinawag na conditional cash transfer. They have to go to school first. Once they go to school, we give them the money. So doon kami nag-i-invest. Siguro nakikita natin wala tayong nakukuhang immediate return, But our main purpose is patapusin namin sila ng high school. And that's coming back to sinabi ko kanina. Yun yung gusto nating ipamana na yung mga bata makapag-aral sila.
How would you implement this, Kuya, in such a large scale? Hindi ba kayo may makakalusot dyan na
Pwedeng...
Tama naman,
Diba?
tama naman. You have to understand, kaya kami the largest national social protection program in the entire Philippines kasi we have thousands of people on the ground. Around 20,000 people on the ground. And they have a face-to-face encounter and they monitor the household. They work closely with the household. I think that's one thing na namomonitor naman namin sila. But the society, people would also have to understand that like any program, it's not perfect. And let's enter into a conversation. If you find something that's perfect about it, sabihin nyo sa amin. And we act on it. Pero alam mo, ang lagi kasi nila sinasabi, parang ginagawa kasi namin nagde-depend na lang sila sa amin, tapos nagsusugal sila. I mean, hindi ko naman sinasabing hindi ko sinasabi na parang dinidisregard namin yon. Pero we have commissioned a lot of studies, independent studies, and they have given their results and wala namang nakitang dependency na in-establish natin. Baka meron. Baka out of the 4.4, a margin of error of 1 or 2 or 3% of the people na nakikita nila. So baka yung nakikita nilang mga yun is just one of the exemption but not of the... It would not speak for the entire population or the entire 4Ps.
I've never thought of it that way, Kuya. Kasi when you see memes on Facebook about 4Ps, yung mga nakikita mo dun, di ba? Like it's put in such a bad light.
Correct. I mean, I don't blame people. Well, of course, pera ng gobyerno yun.
Opo.
People are invested about it. And syempre, pag perang pinag-usapan, people are also jealous about it. Or they also wanted to receive that kind of benefits, which is valid.
Honestly,
Valid naman. And hindi ko naman sinasabi mali yung pananaw nila. But let's look at the bigger picture. Okay? We're investing in the poor household. So, sabi ko nga sa inyo, pag itong lahat nakatapos sila ng high school graduate, better yung chances nila to access formal education compared to their parents, walang natapos. So kung maghanap sila ng trabaho, ano lang pwede? Magkakatulong lang sila or they're underemployed. Pero pag senior high school graduate ka, marami kang pwede. Meron ka ng chances. And I think that's what people have to understand. If they find it very parang kung sa tingin nila nag-waste tayo ng time or ng resources, mag-mind shift tayo. It's just like looking at the personal story of our families na when someone finishes high school, it changes everything. And I think, Miko, I think that's one thing I really appreciate right now. Siguro, kung homegrown lang ako nag-aral dito at hindi ako nag-aral abroad, siguro yung mga opportunities na sa akin, what I'm experiencing right now, hindi sa ganun. I would not have that better chances of
if
getting
you haven't
better.
seen other countries.
Of course. I mean, being a homegrown, I love studying at University of St. Louis and I'm proud being part of it. But I felt like it could have never expanded my perspective and my horizon and my ability to influence if I never had any other exposure as well.
Walk us through kung paano nga ba ginagawa yung like, for example, 4Ps. How do they decide that is the program to choose? What are the steps that you undergo? Kasi siyempre...
Pag 4Ps, definitely, dapat ma-assess ka na poor. Mm-hmm. Dati, meron kaming office na National Household Targeting Office. Sila dapat. So, ibig sabihin, nagbabahay-bahay, ni-interview yung bawat households. Mm-hmm. At based dun sa mga indicators, dun sa questionnaire, pag kinompute yung projected income mo, it should be lower than the poverty threshold. Example kasi, pupunta ka ng bahay-bahay. In fact, we're not asking you magkano kinikita mo. Mm-hmm. Ang question lang namin is, ano yung assets ownership, ano yung nakikita namin with the plain eye. Kasi, when you see those things, kung ano itsura ng bahay mo, yung mga pambagmamayari mo, i-compute namin yan, paano mo nabili ang mga yan. Of course, nabili mo yan because of the income that you generated. Tapos ilan kayo sa household na yun. Then after that, ika-classify ka kung poor or non-poor ka. Pag poor ka, yun lang yung way para maging 4-piece ka. So, ibig sabihin, kung for some reason, nalugi ka or nawalan ka ng pera or whatnot, hindi yung pwedeng punta ka sa DSWD, gusto ko mag-apply ng 4-piece. No. Kailangan munang ma-assess ka na mahirap ng isang standardized targeting system. At ngayon, ang standardized targeting system ay through CBMS na, yung Community-Based Monitoring System ng Philippine Statistics Authority. Now, that's only 4-piece. Marami pang mga programs ng DSWD. Meron tayong tinatawag ng assistance in crisis situation. Mm-hmm. Ito yung tinatawag nating medical assistance, hospital assistance, funeral assistance. People should understand that anyone in crisis can go to DSWD. Because some people never prepare for crisis. Kaya nga siya tinawag assistance in crisis. So, whether you're poor, whether you're working, or whether you can afford anything in life, but when it comes to crisis, it's something that you're not prepared of. And you can come to DSWD. You can explain to them. You don't need to lie. You can always tell na, yun kasi ang perception ng mga tao, when you come to DSWD, you should lie. No. When you come to us, tell us, I am earning this income. However, I didn't expect this to happen, and we never prepared for this, and we wanted to be of help. And I think that should something people have to understand. You don't need to call anyone or whatnot. You just have to come as you are. You don't need to pretend. Minsan nga may mga kilala, sir, kailangan ko bang magbihis na mahirap ako? Hindi. Kasi nga, ang tawag mo sa program na yon, assistance in crisis situation. Diba? Mayroon pa, well, of course, there are other programs pa sa DSWD, and we can talk more about it if you're interested.
Oo naman, kuya. Yung dun sa assistance, yung sa crisis, parang ano ang criteria ba nun?
Wala. You're in crisis, just come to DSWD. So if you're, for some reason, as far as I understand, that's how the program works, in crisis situation. Not for the AKAP. Kasi si AKAP, kung narinig nyo si AKAP, very, very strict yun. Ang sinasabi sa AKAP, kailangang mahirap ka.
Mahirap ka, talaga.
Pero yung AIX kasi, yung sa crisis in situation, ang kailangan mo lang is yung requirements. So kung
ano yung mga yon?
Kung kailangan mo na-discharge ka na sa hospital, you just need your medical certificate and your prescription. Then I don't think the indigency is already needed. Pero if it's needed, we have just to ask. Pero yung basic itong dalawa, ganun din sa hospitalization. Kailangan mo ng medical certificate or the medical abstract, then the duly signed bill. Wala nang iba.
Pwede akong magbigay ng example, kuya.
Sige lang.
Halimbawa ako, na hospital ako, meron akong trabaho, may pag-aari, may konting pera, pero last money ko na. Like, I could afford naman nung hospital bill ko, pero wala akong pera.
In a crisis situation. Because you
pwede
did
na
not
bang
prepare
crisis yun?
Of course. Let's try to understand na of course, priority natin ang poor, but the program is there to help people in crisis. Pero i-clarify ko, iba rin yung assistance na ibibigay ng local government unit. You can come to your local government unit under the local Social Welfare Development Office. It's a separate support coming from the local government unit. Itong binibigay ng DSWD is the fund of DSWD. So, to answer your question, in crisis ka Hindi mo afford, or hindi mo, kaya mo naman bayan, pero nasagad ka na. It's okay. You can always come to the DSWD. And we will try to assess you. Let me also put another layer to that. You come to us, the social welfare officer will assess kung dun sa mga kwento mo, to what extent pwedeng pumasok ang DSWD.
They'll find a way to help. Talaga.
They will help. They will help. I'm sure of that, because that's what the program is for.
Guys,
And-
alam
and-
nyo na.
But we will leave it to the professional judgment of the social welfare officer who will be interviewing you at that time on how much support we will be able to provide to you.
Any other notable na programs kuya na like the public should know about sa tingin mo?
Well, something that they can access, that's something that they can
Ayun.
do.
Yung sa crisis, I'm sure ang daming
Yan, sobrang dami.
ang daming ngayon lang narinig yan.
Alam nila yan.
Especially in healthcare. Sobrang dami. Dami akong patients na talagang extending hospital stay and then kailangan ng money to pay the bills. And
Rule of thumb, kung gusto mo hospital talaga, public hospitals are doing good right now. And because of the Malasakit Center, pinaninindigan ng gobyerno ng no balance billing. Then the DSWD will just enter by giving you your allowance. Kasi 'di ba sa hospital may mga out of the pocket expenses. So at saka meron kang mga daily expenses, pwede kang bigyan ng DSWD. Pero kung kailangan mo ng emergency and you go to private hospital, you can always access that. But the other programs, of course, yung mga iba dyan, mga specialized program na. Like, of course, yung Kalahi Seeds na minention nyo, this is not individual but for the community. So the poor communities can propose anong mga infrastructures, mga facilities na pwedeng i-create sa isang lugar. So example, walang daycare center, so pwedeng magtayo ng daycare center. But it's the poor people saying we want a daycare center. Yung pinsan mo or si Angelo, right now working with Pag-abot, ang role naman nila, they're reaching out to street families in Metro Manila, and they give them an opportunity to have their life back by turning over them to the LGU so that they can go home, then later provide some livelihood assistance. Then meron yung walang gutom. Ito namang walang gutom program, bibigyan kayo ng voucher. Now, yung voucher na yon, mas maganda to. Kailangan mong bumili ng pagkain doon sa authorized na retailer, at yung pagkain bibilhin mo, dapat it's a balance of a grow, glow.
Meal plan nyo, pabatak. Kuya, yung sa yung sa kanal, yung binigyan
Yun
ng...
yung sinasabi ko sa Pag-abot kanina. Yun yung assistance to the street families. Yung sa...
Oh.
So...
80K. Ganun kalaki.
Gusto ko yun.
The range of the
80K?
support can reach up to 80K. But kailangan nating i-clarify. Hindi lang cold cash na bibigay yun. Meron siyang process na pagdadaanan na binibigay yun kasi sabi na ko nga kanina, binibigyan ng opportunity yung mga street families na to regain their life back. So we're giving them way. Ideally kasi nun, Miko, papauwiin namin sila sa probinsya nila. At pag nandun na sila sa probinsya nila, doon na sila tutulungan ng LGU kung anong mga business or anong skills ang kukunin nila. At kung gusto nila magkaroon ng sari-sari store or what kind of livelihood, isusupport natin up to that kind of amount. Okay. So hindi siya yung parang galing ako ng daan, ito, bibigyan ng 80. Kaya hindi. Meron siyang, we have to believe in the process of the social work. May case management na ginagawa dyan. So, yun yung si Rose.
Okay. Sa mga kwento mo, kuya, na may mga programs palang ganyan, like, it's bringing back my hope sa government. May kasama ka pala talaga, ganun.
I think so. It's just more of advocating na i-access yung mga services na yun.
Pag-aaralan ko yung mga yan kasi yung sabi ko nga kanina, kuya, feeling ko yung knowledge ko about DSWD, yung parang baseline level lang, yung sa common na nakapag-aral, ganun, tas hindi ko alam tong mga to. And pwede pala ako mag-apply. Anyone pala.
Crisis.
When you are in crisis.
When you are in crisis.
Of course. That has to be clearly established.
Yeah.
Opo.
Going back, I think you didn't talk about how you landed a job on the very first job in DSWD and why you continued to pursue being in DSWD all throughout the years. How many years ka na ba sa DSWD?
14, 15.
14. That's a long time.
Would you believe when I came to DSWD, I submitted my application and they called for me for an exam and interview. So nung pumunta na ako sa interview ko, sa exam, nag-exam ako, sir, wag ka nang aalis kasi susunod na interview mo. Tapos nung na-interview ako ng mga 7 o'clock, after the interview, I learned the result already. Ganun ka galing yung, ay hindi man, ganun ka-efficient yung director at that time. Na within the day, going through the hurdles of exam, interview, I learned about the result. So that was the time that I landed in the SWD. And again, there was no profound reason again why I wanted to go to the SWD. Maybe at that time someone just told me there was a vacancy in the SWD and I just tried it.
What did you do before?
I actually worked, that's not my first. My first was actually in DOH. And nung sa DOH, yung sa DOH, it was being a project officer for Global Fund for HIV and AIDS. So we were advocating for more awareness about HIV so people would not be stigmatized on those with HIV and to provide a lot of support for them. Then the program ended at that time, so I really wanted to transfer. That's why I went to DSWD.
Since we're in the topic of HIV, I think one of the hottest news lately is like the rising number of cases in HIV. What can you say about that?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, with the kind of exposure the young people have right now compared to my time, it's given. Diba? I mean, people are very liberal right now. So, but it's alarming. But we have to create an environment where we don't judge people because of their choice. We create also an environment where when someone is already in that situation, it's not the end line for them.
Yeah.
But they just needed a support and they needed to access health services. And for me, I always believe in second chances. So maybe they made the wrong choices, a choice of not protecting themselves. But we have to give them another choice by not stigmatizing them, but helping them. So when we don't stigmatize them, we are encouraging them to seek help and to get medication. And when we do that, I guess they will return to their normal life. So it might be very alarming, but if we create an environment where we ask them to come out and get tested and access government support, then that's gonna be it. I feel you have to confirm to me hanggang ngayon libre pa rin naman ng gamot for HIV.
Yeah,
or they have to buy it.
But I heard it's not that dangerous anymore.
No,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's dangerous kasi when you're not hindi ka na test at hindi ka nagkaroon ng medication, it will really cost your health.
I think in terms of that naman, the transmission of the disease itself spreads quickly if you don't get tested, if
Correct.
you don't wear protection, and with regards to the medications, it's available. You can proceed to the nearest, I think, DOH, and then there are people who are actually taking the medications and are still alive
Functional,
and functional right now.
Yun lang ang importante, once they access of course, get tested para hindi ka makahawala lalo. At pangalawa, to have an optimal lifestyle. So, para magpatuloy ka pa rin. And I've seen a lot of the clients before that I've worked with. They're very successful na sa mga career nila. Pero at that time, imagine Miko, at that time, they felt like it's the end of
the world.
End of the world for them. Their families are judging them or whatever. Pero that time, because of we created a safe space for them. Right now, nagiging advocate na sila and they're very successful sa field nila. And I'm proud of it.
How about during the COVID times? What were you up to?
Nasa Korea ako noon.
Okay.
Nasa Korea ako noon. I think it worked for me at that time kasi at that time it was my second chance really. Paano ko ba masabi yun? When I had the opportunity to study to Korea, I didn't ask for it. So my boss at the time just called me and said, we nominated you and they approve of it and we wanted you to submit the documents. So, because of the trust that they have given to me, I went to Korea and I placed it upon myself to work hard to be on top of the class. So during the pandemic, since we cannot go out, I took that opportunity to really dive into my studies and really be master of what I'm studying.
Lumagari.
Nag-grind siya talaga.
So, while my friends at that time, they're touring Korea, I was in my room, trying my best to understand our lesson and to familiarize all of the materials and to be good at it. And I think it paid off naman. So
Were you alone, kuya? May kasama ka ba nun na scholars, ganyan?
ang setup sa dorm namin noon, we're sharing room. So I was sharing a room with a Korean, but lo and behold, it's because of the scare of the pandemic at that time. So he never showed up. He stayed home. So I was alone in my dormitory. And again, it worked for me because it gave me all the freedom to do whatever I can in my room and focus on my...
What was it like ba doon, kuya? Like, Pinoy ka, syempre, and then COVID, ganun. Hindi ka palabas-labas.
Hindi, you can go out actually. Maganda ang sistema ng Korea at that time. People can move around provided that you have mask with you. And gamit-gamit mo, and nakakaikot naman kami. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, yung mga peers ko, kaya nilang maglibot. Pero at that time, it worked for me. Parang yun na lang yung naging rason ko na, it's COVID, we have to be safe. But at the end, at the back of my mind, I was like, no, I'm serious with my ambition. So, yun. But I have to tell you, language-wise, I struggled. Kasi nag-language class kami, pero dahil dapat ang language class, dapat face-to-face ang pag-aaral niyan. Kasi nga kailangan mo mag-practice, you have to have conversation with someone else to be good at it. Unfortunately, dahil online ang mga class. So kahit basahin mo yung buong libro, you'll be good at the technicals of the spelling, the pronunciation, but to be conversant, hindi mo kaya. Pero masyado kasing bad ang experience ko ng first time experience ko when I first came to Korea. Dahil sabi ko kasi hindi ko pinagandaan yan. So hindi ko rin pinagandaan ng language. So I was just only English, and I've been traveling to a lot of countries. I felt like my English is already good to make a conversation to people. So tuloy ko yung kwento ko. Pagdating ko ng Korea, it was my first day in Korea, tumakbo ko. The usual one. So dahil sabi ko, malapit lang naman yung tatakbuhin ko, iniwan ko yung phone ko. So, tumakbo ko. So, the usual, di ba, sa Tugigaraw, pag, kung tumakbo ka, alam mong iikot at babalik lang yun. So, parang that was my thing. So, umakyat ako. So, yung dorm namin, pumakyat ako ng ganyan. Tapos lumabas ako ng gate. So, feeling ko, pag susundan ko lang yung buong side ng road na yun, I would come back eventually to my dorm. Mga 45 minutes na, hindi pa rin ako nakakabalik. So parang, problema yan, nawawala na ako, wala akong phone, I don't know anything. So I started asking people. So I started asking a Korean sa bus stop. I was speaking English, but unfortunately, hindi niya ako naintindihan. And he was responding to me, hindi ko rin siya naintindihan. So sabi ko, problema na talaga ito, magkakaproblema na ito. First day ko, nakakaya na ako. Then I asked people, wala talaga akong nakausap. Then eventually, dahil hopeless na ako, pumunta na ako sa police station. Sabi ko sa police station, I'm lost. I don't know where my dorm is. Tinanong pa nila, saan ang dorm mo? I don't know the name of the dorm. But anyway, to cut the story short, so pinasakay nila ako sa police patrol. Inuwi na nila ako sa dorm ko. Nakita ko yung dorm ko. Having said that, at that time, at some point, I hated the language of Korean. I felt like it was not for me. So then, yung nag-aaral ako ng Korean language before, it was very a struggle for me. Tapos nagka-pandemic pa, so I didn't have any conversation with people. Wala na talaga. So Sabi nga ng mga peers ko, so di ba pag nanonood ka ng mga Korean, di ba, na-enjoy mo yan? Oo.
Ano ba yung inaral dun sa...
It was public administration, but the specialization is public management and public sector reform. And I would have to admit that most of the things that I've learned from them, yun yung mga ini-infuse ko sa work ngayon. The perspective of making a decision, it's based on sound judgment kasi you need data. You have to look into a lot of factors before arriving into certain decisions. And also, since I've been teaching for quite a while, ang sinusugurado ko na ang public ad ay hindi lang para sa lahat. Meron siyang learning curriculum na yung mga theories niya ay public ad talaga. And I think, to be honest with you, feeling ko nga nung nag-aral ako dun, parang lahat na napag-aralan ko ng public ad sa Pilipinas, parang it was wrong.
Why? What makes it wrong?
Kasi parang feeling nila na parang you can just talk about anything about government. Yung parang, sige lang, you can always make a opinion about government. Pero hindi eh. There's a science to it eh. You have certain theories, you have certain frameworks to follow. Yun yung hindi na-discuss before. So parang, sige, ano masasabi nyo na may impeachment? You know, anyone can make a comment about it. But for me, we should make a comment based on certain framework. Kagabi nga, pauwi ako rito sa Tugigaraw. Inisip ko, gusto ko i-analyze ang impeachment in light of public choice theory. It's too technical. Pero sa public choice theory kasi, lahat ng action ng isang tao, meron siyang primal motives. So kung titignan mo yung mga bumoto na wag maituloy or ibalik siya sa House of kailangan mong tignan. Hindi sila nag-decide because of the taong bayan. They decided because of a personal choice and a political, selfish reason. Lagi kong tinuturo yung public choice theory.
Self-preservation.
Correct. Sa public choice theory kasi, when a certain public officer says, I'm doing this for a greater cause, that's a big lie. Because at the end of the day, as a public officer, you always do something because you want to get something in return. There's always a catch. So when they voted against they voted in favor of bringing back to and that's my personal take, they're bringing it back to the House of Representatives, it was not because they're thinking of the taong bayan, but because they were looking at their personal political preference. And I wanted to write something about that, pero I don't want to be political about it.
I love politics, kuya. Share ko lang. Do you feel safe na pag-usapan yung mga ganyan? Kasi like you're working with the government.
That's the reason I don't want to write about it. I was supposed to post it online, but I felt like, wait, I have to be careful about it.
Isn't it parang it's an innate human trait? Like
for
self-preservation.
If you use the public choice theory as a framework of analysis, that's what it says.
Ano ba yun? Yung public...
Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na anyone who is serving in the government will always have personal motives of doing things. So, if I help you...
Ano to, sa Pilipinas lang to, kuya? O happens everywhere?
The framework was tested.
It's a framework. It's what the theory is all about. And yan yung simple theory na very basic in public administration and political science, which was never discussed in class. And I don't want to discredit anyone with it. But again, yun naman yung added value. Right now, handling classes in St. Paul, I make sure na yung mga public ad na mga concepts and principles, yun yung talagang pag-aaralan ng mga estudyante. Hindi yung mga, sige, pag-usapan lang natin ng politics. No, we have to have a framework to follow.
Dapat alam mo yung sinasabi mo.
Correct.
Hindi yung may opinion ka lang, ganyan.
Since we talked about yung specific topic niyan, what is the most fulfilling thing or like story about your job?
At the end of the day, when I felt like contributed to addressing addressing the problem. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, from the start, I had the branding of being a troubleshooter. So, yung pinaka-fulfilling example, in 2023 when I was given the opportunity to be officer in charge as Deputy National Program Manager, yung program namin was already delay in implementing the project. Tapos, dahil sa delay nito, para ma-conceptualize nyo, sa sobrang delay niya, ng 3 years na, so ibig sabihin yung pera for the last 3 years hindi nagastos. And we have already 7 months at that time to fix that problem. And I'm glad at that time that we have a very good leader, si Attorney BM, and a very supportive team. That at the end of the year, to answer your question most fulfilling, we were able to fix the problem, and it was the first time ever in the entire history of Kalahi Siege to spend 20 billion in 1 year. In previous years, ang kaya lang nilang gastusin was 7 billion. But at the time that we were troubleshooting it, we were able to push heaven and earth to spend 20 billion. And I think that's very fulfilling for me.
Saan galing yun? 20 billion, that's a lot. May ganyan pala
Yan
tayong
yung,
ano.
Yan yung mga community programs, community projects. Siguro may mga problem din before dahil hindi binababa ni DBM at DOF yung pera on time. Kaya nagkakaroon ng backlogs.
Opo.
Patapos na yung loan at that time. So we have to make the decision of having the money spent na rather than ibalik namin yung pera or magbayad pa tayo ng mga late charges. So just to answer your question, itong mga 20 billion, we're giving it to different municipalities, 4th, 5th, or 6th class municipalities, so that they can address yung mga lack of access of services at the barangay level. So, example, kulang ng classroom, kulang ng hindi maganda yung daan. We fund those provided na ang magsasabi na gastusin yun doon sa project na yun ay yung mga taong bayan, the poor people themselves. So it's empowering. We're letting the poor decide what kind of services, health facilities to be, or what kind of infrastructure activities to be put up within the community. Once they decide that, they make the proposal and they implement it. So there's this participation in the entire time. So yung very fulfilling yan, at that time, nung natapos yung taon, nung natapos na-reach namin yun, since I was able to finish my work properly, dahil na-fix mo na yung problem, there's nothing to fix anymore. I returned back to my home, which is 4Ps, kasi I was with 4Ps for a long time din.
Income generating po ba ang DSWD?
I don't think so.
Then why would the government give you so much money? Out of all these agencies na pwede pang
you have to
paglagyan
understand, it's a human capital investment. You're investing in the human development of the poor. So ang point ko, sa 4Ps, nag-invest sila na malaki. In fact, 4Ps fund accounts for 60% of the SWD fund. But why spend that much? Kasi nga, we're investing in the lives of, in the education and the nutrition of the poor households. So, it's not income generating, but it's really investing in the long-term development of the poor.
Nababasa ko lang yung the way we are structured here sa Pilipinas, hindi ba sinasadya ng people who are in control daw na to keep the poor?
Not really. Kasi
parang yung sa educated voters, when it comes to that, ganun.
We don't keep them poor. In fact, we help them rise up from their situation and have improved level of well-being or improved conditions in life. This year, we will be graduating 700,000 poor households because they're not poor anymore. Because we call them as self-sufficient. We were able to help them for the past years. We were able to provide support for their children. help them access good employment, and because of that, they're now going out of the program not anymore as poor, but already kaya na nila ang sarili nila. So we're done not keeping them poor.
Can you clarify on the notion or what specific implication of not spending that billion, the 20 billion? Kasi di ba there's a notion na, why are you spending 20 billion?
For the 20 billion na sinasabi ko, sa community projects yun. So, ang implication lang naman yan, pag may mga kulang, sige, ano ba mga programs dun sa 20, ang mga projects na create namin sa 20 billion? And this is not for PISA, it's Kalai Seeds. Dun sa 20 billion, we created bridges in far-flung areas. We put up health facilities in far-flung areas as well. We paved the roads for barangays na wala talagang farm-to-market road na maganda. Ano pa? So implication kung hindi nag-invest ang gobyerno ng ganyan, we were not able to address yung mga access concerns ng mga tao, ng mga poor households sa mga communities nila. Okay? It's just a simple story. Like example, sira-sira na yung mga schools. So, paano ka mag-aaral kung sira-sira yung school? So, the community wanted those projects. So, this 20 billion was meant to address the access to facilities at the poor communities. On the 4Ps side naman, which is maraming mga pera, na yun yung mga up to 90 billion per year, again, it's really a long-term investment. Ngayon, kung wala yung mga support na yun, then we can say that maybe mas tataas pa ang dropout rates natin sa schools. Mas tataas ang mga malnourishment, yun yung mga hindi iniiwasan natin. And if you studied, kung magkakaroon ka ng historical trend ng Pilipinas, meron yung mga time na ang daming bansot. Maraming mga bansot. And that was the time kasi na walang mga
Parang batch namin yun.
maraming mga dahil pag bansot ka, intellectual development mababa din. So kung mababa ang talino ng mga graduates sa mga to, wala silang yung access for employment ay limited lang din. Pero kung paganda yung quality of life ng mga tao dahil nag-invest tayo nandun, then the kind of work na magiging available in the workforce gaganda din. Kasi paano ka rin namang gaganda ang buhay mo kung mag blue collar job ka lang. I mean, it might have helped them to compare dun sa parents nila. Pero if we're reaching for a better future, we invest in education. So going back to your question, kung hindi mag-invest ang gobyerno ng ganun ng mga billion, it will affect also the quality of adults in the future. It will also affect the productivity of the society kasi hindi maganda yung mga kind of jobs, hindi nakapagtapos and so forth.
So yung mga programs na to, kuya, may mga returns din sila?
Should be. And I believe that's what we were doing in 4Ps. We are really investing in the education of the children. Nagbibigay kami ng pera, yes. Pero it's for the future.
And let's go back after a short break.
Bye.
This episode is proudly brought to you by Michelle's Restaurant, located inside Hotel Roma, Tuguegarao, home of the crowd favorite Casa Mia Pizza and the ever-crispy, ever-satisfying Crispy Pie. Whether it's a family dinner, birthday celebration, or just a good time with great food, Michelle's is your go-to spot for comfort and flavor in the heart of the city. Celebrate life's moments, big or small, at Michelle's Restaurant. Let's go!
Ang sarap!
And we are
We're
back.
You've also been a teacher for 20 years, over 20 years.
I believe so. But more of a part-time teacher.
Part-time teacher.
When saying part-time, what do you mean? Like,
When
on and off or?
No, I mean when I was here physically present in Tuguegarao, every weeknights and weekends I teach. Then when
Which school would let you do that?
St. Paul.
Oh.
And also, I tried UCV, SESU. So I've been doing part-time. It depends on what year. But I maintained my loyalty with St. Paul. So of course, right now, naging permanent na part-time na schedule ko ang St. Paul University for graduate school.
So apart from your day job, you also have another like
Of
5 to 9, which is teaching.
Oh,
How do you juggle that? Diba?
before, wala. I love teaching kasi talaga. I don't know where I got that interest, but I think it's just really part of me. But I'll tell you a story. When I was in United States in 2009, nagturo ako ng mga bata. I think siguro doon ko na-realize na I really love teaching. So, nagtuturo ako ng mga bata at that time. It was just for half an hour. Then, nung nagtuturo ako ng ganyan, it was so fulfilling na after I left the class, it felt like I can die already at that time. Because sobrang saya ko. Then, doon ko na-realize na I think teaching is for me, but I don't want it something that is yung parang buong araw mong gagawin. Yung gagawin mo buong araw. Na like your day job. Mm-hmm. It's like, you're just inspiring people or just doing it. So na-maintain ko yun nung bumalik ako from US noon. I started teaching part-time na until now. And I'm very fortunate and I'm very thankful with St. Paul University for still opening doors for me to do online teaching with them.
Shout out St. Paul.
Shout out. And I think it also helps that you have a day job, you have real life examples.
Of course.
And then you can teach them to your students sa masters.
Correct. Oh, kasi I think that's what I bring to the class. Aside from my the public ad curriculum that I bring because of my international studies, yung sa klase, yun yung added factor ko, practitioner ako. Kumbaga, I don't teach by the book. I give concrete examples of what happened on a day-to-day basis within the office and also the relationship of local government units with the other agencies. Kumbaga, very grounded siya.
Okay. So, aside from that, do you also do research?
Of course. Medyo OC also research. I think one of the reason that took it longer for me to finish my dissertation for my doctorate kasi I wanted a national study. I don't want, di ba usually pag mga dissertation, okay na yung mga regional. Pero for me, I was wanting a research that will have impact, a research that of national scale. Pero nung nag-start kasi ako mag-doctoral, parang wala pa akong mga tools on how to do it, on how I would go about it. And I'm fortunate that I was exposed with a Korean education and on the field of statistics. And that created an opportunity for me that made me more confident already on venturing national studies. So, natapos ko yung dissertation ko. It's a very huge study. I studied how, it's very technical, forgive me for that, but how the local government units are using their autonomy in making decisions on social welfare. So, ibig sabihin, when the more autonomous they are, the more that they are, mas napapag-aral nila mga bata, mas nababawasan ng mga maternal death. So, yun yung pinag-aralan ko. So, aside from that aspect na academician ako, I also bring that to work. Kailangan yung mga decisions na ginagawa namin, kailangan ko tingnan ano ba yung mga previous studies na sinasabi doon. Kung may mga problem kami, I have to study the context of the problem. Gaano ba kadami yung affected sa problem na yun? Is it because of is it an isolated case or it's something that is apparent into for the entire country? Kasi kung isolated case, I wouldn't spend much time thinking about it. But if I feel like this is a problem na that presented to me. Tapos nung tiningnan ko ang national data, madami pala. So doon na yung magiging magiging aggressive na ako na kailangan i-resolve na natin yun. So research is something that I don't do only as an academician but also as a public servant. I make sure that before making a decisions or when there are new challenges coming, kailangan kong aralin.
Galing. So sa tingin mo, kuya, teaching has helped put you where you are now? Sa tingin mo, you'd be where you are if yung hindi ka nagturo, ganun? Or?
I think so. Kasi sa pagtuturo ko naman, I mean, I had opportunity dealing with a lot of students, lalo na dahil sa pala mga yan na nagtatrabaho dito sa Tugigaraw and somewhere adjacent. And ang goal ko kasi when I teach them, I wanted them to understand that they will become leaders soon or they will be promoted to a certain position, that the very reason they're taking masters ay maging better decision makers sila, better technical person sila. Kumbaga, pag may kailangan ng boss nila sa kanila, they will be able to go through the scientific process, knowing the problem, where do you get after you define the problem, ano yung mga nasusulat tungkol doon. And ako, lalo na pag ganun ang mga nakakatrabaho ko, when they come to me with those kind of presentation, it's easier for me to decide. It's easier for me to support them on that matter. Kasi, ibig sabihin na pag-isipan, ibig sabihin, na-value namin yung oras ng bawat isa at nagkakaroon kami, we're reinventing the wheel. Kumbaga, hindi lang yung yun yung isang bagay na I model inside my division, na pag may problem, wag dapat sabihin na, ganito kasi yung polisiya natin, ganito yung ginagawa natin. No. I ask them, tingnan nyo ng mabuti yung situation kasi baka kailangan na natin baguhin yung mga dating mga polisiya, but it's not working anymore. And I think because of my interaction with my students, it helped me also interact well with my staff, and also yung sa actual work context ko, ma-explain ko rin sa, I don't know, parang namumodel ko rin sa mga kasama ko na, hindi dapat tayo na nakukulong sa nakaraan.
So kuya, masasabi mo ba na like being from Tugigaraw, may contribution din ba yun sa...
Should be. Kasi dito naman ako lumaki. So most likely, I mean, my education here, my exposure with people that I met on a day-to-day basis, and even everything happening here, it helped me where I am right now.
So you take pride
being of course.
From Taga-Tugi.
Let me qualify.
Yan. Let's get it.
Alam mo, mayroon mga panahon na hindi ba ganun kaunlad-unlad ng mga Tugigaraw. Wala pa yung mga buildings in everywhere business. Pag maraming mga taong gustong pumunta sa Tugigaraw, parang I don't invite them. Pero right now, with all of the development that I'm seeing, I'm really proud. And ang dami na nagbago sa Tugigaraw ngayon, and we should be proud of it. But anyway, going back, ano lang yung tinanong mo ulit kanina?
Does being from Tugigaraw helped you out sa career ventures mo going up?
Oh, kasi dito naman ako nag-aral. Dito ako, from elementary until college, dito ako nag-ground.
For short, guys, homegrown.
Homegrown talaga ako kasi from high school, from elementary hanggang college, dito ako namulat. And I feel like, at some point, limited lang din kung ano yung worldview ng meron sa Tugigaraw. But it prepared me to the bigger opportunities outside. It planted the good seed within me. Of course, the hard work, the discipline of, discipline, hard work, commitment, and everything. I think that brought me to places. Siguro yung mga sa classes natin before, dahil kasi student leader ako, dahil inalaw ako ng university na maging student leader, in-expose ako sa lahat ng mga bagay, it allowed me to be who I am right now.
I think napag-usapan natin before, I think years ago. And I just wanted to clarify, what was your main deciding point in leaving Tugigaraw and pursuing the national level of DSWD?
Kasi wala na opportunity dito eh. I mean, I've reached already a certain position. Then, feeling ko na maximize ko na yung extent ko rito. Like, when I left Tugigaraw, I was handling one of the biggest program, yung Kalahi Seeds, and I started it. I planted the seed for it. Pero as a young professional, you always look for what's next in your career. And looking at the current structure, merong mga well-established individuals in their own position, and I don't want to take it from them. And I felt like I just have to go somewhere else where there would be available opportunities. But Miko, if there would be an available position at that time, I could have left.
Stayed here.
Stayed here. Correct. Pero wala eh. And at that time, at that time, I just came from a international school, a very good school. Then I was looking for more. And I felt like at the time, the opportunity was available in the central office. And I was thankful that when I started having my application sent to them, they immediately invited me to come to the national office.
So with all your achievements, with all your accomplishments, what keeps you grounded? Kasi it's so easy na you've reached this point and then you
Karoon ng ego, ano?
Diba? Tapos pwede ka na mag-relax kasi ang dami ko nang gawa eh, diba? What keeps you moving?
I have to, being grounded is something that I have to learn. And when I started my career, yung start ng career ko, yun yung nagturo sa akin ng mga important values. And yun nagturo sa akin to be grounded. And kasi alam nyo, I don't know if people can relate to that, especially yung mga nag-start sa career nila. Parang feeling nila they're top of their games and they feel like they can do everything. Then suddenly, things will fall apart for them. Mm-hmm. So, then you realize the world is not for you to take. Kasi nga, you were not careful with what you did the first part of your career. So, it's the same story with me. I was on top of my game. I was really... I was very proud of myself. I was not connected with people. I was so focused on myself. Then suddenly, things have turned around for me. And I felt like that kind of situation grounded me. And I don't want to come to that situation again. So, I stay grounded because I have an experience of, a life-changing experience when I started my career back then. And I'm thankful for second chances. And because I was given a second chance, I don't want to blow it up. So if people would give me feedback on how I work with them, on things that I do, I value it. And it makes me feel like these are providential because it's keeping me grounded also. So my experience plus those people who are true to me, telling to me, it keeps me grounded. And of course, going back to Tugigaraw makes me grounded as well because it makes me feel like when you're at home, when you get so refreshed, yung mga stress na encounter mo sa work, nawawala. Kasi meron yung time, last year, I was so much stressed from work. And I felt like if I stayed a little longer sa work at that time, I could have snapped and started calling out people at that time. Pero sabi ko, I don't want to reach that point. So, work-life balance is also important.
Ang galing mo, kuya. Talino. Round of applause nga, guys, please. Wait, do you have a message for students and aspiring public servants?
For students, paano ba? What can
Para
I
maging
say?
katulad mo. Kasi sabi mo, you take pride being taga-Tugigaraw. Samantalang yung iba, they're ashamed of it. May mga ganun eh.
Of course, I have to let everyone know. If you are studying in Tugigaraw, you have to take pride of it. And I feel like we should never think that opportunities will only be made available for those people who are studying in Manila. I could have that kind of mindset before, but when I decided returning back to Tuguegarao and stayed in the university, I never regretted that. And what I would just maybe one thing, if you are a homegrown Tuguegarao and you studied here in Tuguegarao, believe me, what you study, the kind of education that they give it to you will also give you opportunity to have the world at your hand. Or if not the world, to have the bigger stage for you to take on. It's na hindi lang kayo malilimit sa Tuguegarao. So I want to put it out there. Tuguegarao education is, I think, I'm take pride. Never kong na-set aside yan. Siguro second I would always give to others, always get out of the box. Don't let others define what you can achieve in life. Out of the box. I can remember someone telling me back then, I'm so ambitious. Correct, I was really ambitious because I was thinking beyond myself. And if I was not as ambitious as before, I could have never been where I am right now. So let them define what is your confine. But at the end of the day, ikaw rin na magde-decide kung anong gusto mong mangyari. So, be a little adventurous. So, be more ambitious if you want to. It's okay. You have the world in front of you.
Saktong-sakto ka talaga na guest namin, Kuya, kasi yung tong Homegrown Podcast is about yung mga lumabas na, like, sabi mo, you went to UP and then umuwi. Pero ikaw, lumabas ka ulit. Ngayon, parang pakikinig sa'yo, changed my perspective so much na, guys, to be homegrown is not to simply live here, but it's about carrying the wisdom with you paglabas mo ng Tuge. Tama si, wag natin ilimit yung sarili natin dito. Like, if your industry brings you out there, take it. Labas ng comfort zone. Yun ang being homegrown is.
Choose hard, di ba?
Choose hard. Exactly. Let's give it up for Dr. Augustus Narag.
So before we end, may we have a quick round of questions. Quick questions natin.
Maraming takot ako dyan.
Fast talk. Parang fast talk natin eh. Favorite pansiteria in Tuguegarao?
Sa Tuguegarao, cherries.
Classic, no? Classic.
Patil pato.
Lapit kasi.
Sakto lang for me. Preference.
May gulay?
Different folks, different strokes. Di ba? Yes, moving on.
One book that changed your mindset or your life?
Alam mo, hindi ko alam eh. Pero
or author. Pwedeng author.
I'm a fan of Paulo Coelho.
I knew it. Anong quote ni Paulo Coelho?
Wala eh. Nakalimutan ko na eh. But I'm a fan eh.
Or any quote na you'd share to.
The universe provides something like that. Anything relating to it. Si Paulo Coelho kasi at that time, he was my comfort zone. He was, I was in college before, when I started reading about his book, and what he impressed on me at that time was possibilities. And I think that's what I embraced through the years. Na I always look at possibilities.
Okay. Profound. Dream policy reform you'd love to implement in the Philippines if you had all the resources?
I mean, I'm in full support still of dream policy. Parang hindi ko pa napag-isipan yan. Hindi ko pa napag-isipan yan.
Great question.
Lahat meron sa'yo. Pwede mong gawin right there and then.
Huwag mo nang ipasagot. Baka may manggaya. Diba?
Diba?
Idea yun. Idea niya yun.
Alam nila, idea niya.
I think yung para walang mga corruption and everything.
Anong solution mo doon?
Yung meron na talaga tayong operable na yung national ID natin na nandun lahat ng information nyo. So when you come to any kind of government services or when makikita na kagad yung information or dahil dun sa system na yun, siya na mismo magsasabi kung anong kind of support na ibigay sa'yo ng gobyerno. Siya na rin na magre-remind sa'yo na kailangan mong pumunta sa doktor para sa mga check-up mo, sa mga vaccination mo, na mo-monitor ng buong gobyerno dahil sa meron ng national ID system.
nakaranas ako niyan sa Canada. Oo. Tawag sa kanya services card. Yung pag yun yung kasi free healthcare, papakita ko lang yun sa hospital. They take a look, get the number, put something in there, and then ayun, bounce na ako.
Correct.
Ganun.
Kung kailangan mo ng help, punta ka lang sa DSWD, wala kang dalang support. Wala kang mga papel. Let the system will tell you kung anong situation mo and they will generate how much support will be provided
since
for you.
may ganun naman pala hindi ba natin basa-basa na lang magaya yun?
Kaya naman, we're starting with it. Pero syempre, the absorptive capacity is another thing. I mean, it takes all of the government agencies to learn the how to implement it. So I think we're getting there, but it's something that's worth taking on.
If there's any person you would want to work with, who is this person?
Wala.
Who is the most inspiring person you've worked with?
For me,
Yeah.
for DSWD, it was Dinky Soliman. I felt like she was very excellent, competent, and she's very passionate and grounded. In terms of being a social worker and leading the agency, I felt like she was my inspiration. Right now, the current secretary, I love him too much because he's taking a lot of risk. And he's forward-looking. He wanted everything quick and fast. It feels like we're on the same page. So maybe I'm already working under the same agency, but having the opportunity to be like one of his, director or even on the executive level, helping him out on making decisions, maybe on that. That's when it comes referring to a person. But what I really wanted is to go beyond national government agencies or maybe working on international organizations or something. That's a dream that I have in mind, but let's see.
Kuya, what's her name ulit? Parang
Si Dinky Soliman, Corazon Soliman, the previous secretary.
yun lang, did she run for national position?
She never tried.
Oh, kasi for some reason, like, I've heard
May
of
name
her
recall
name
siya,
before.
no?
Oh, may name recall.
Parang narinig ko siya.
Kasi she has been a secretary of the SWD for 2 times. And she's very inspiring. She really go to community levels. And I think that's also one of her branding na kahit ganun ka-popular yung name niya, she never took advantage of it and just remained to be a government official rather than to be a politician.
Okay.
I think that's one thing. I think I have to remember, growing up, I was more of a bureaucrat rather than a politician.
Yeah. Okay. So, Tugigaraw in one word.
Home.
Yeah.
Sheesh!
Homegrown podcast. Thank you so much
Of
for
course.
For
Thank you
one
for
more
inviting
time,
me.
let's give it up for Dr. Augustus Narot.
Thank you.